What's going on, guys? I'm back with another one. And I just watched a movie called Titane, starring Agatha Roussel, Vincent Linden, and Lais Salome. First of all, let me take you on a journey of a brief history of controversial films. Alright? And we're going to start with the 80s era. Because as far back as I can remember, the first movie that shook a lot of feathers for me was Angel Heart. Okay? It had murder, it had mystery, it had voodoo, but the most important thing of all that it had was a specific fatality, death if you will, that I can't mention for obvious reasons, but it was something I've never seen in any other movie before it. Okay, and also if I mention it, it'll be a huge spoiler, so just take my word for it. Okay, and then let's move on to the 90s era. My movie for that era was Kids. Okay, this dealt with a lot of teenage sex and transmitted disease and just things that other things you can transmit besides that, for just having sex that young and all the drama that circulates around that. Okay, very crazy, very racy movie. Trust me on that. And so now we move on to a more modern era. And my movie for this era, Shape of Water. Yes, one of the most controversial ones up to date for me. I love this one not only because so many people were pissed off at this movie. It went in a direction or a area that a lot of people would probably be afraid to go. Okay, this is interspecies sex on human. Okay, this is put it out there. It's interspecies sex. It's fish man having sex with a human woman, and it's not just a bunch of nasty all the way through the movie. Okay, there's some meaning to that. There's meaning to it, but a lot of people just wouldn't open their minds to that movie. And now we have Titane. And my question is, will Titane be another title in that hall of controversy? We're going to find out. Let's go. Titane, for those who don't know, for those who are not aware, I'm not going to drag you along on this one. I'm sure you don't know. This came out about the same time that Venom came out. Oh, Venom Part 2. Nobody's aware of it. I'm positive no one knows about this movie. Not in America, at least. Titane. It's pretty much about this young girl who is involved in an accident where she's required to have a metal plate put in her head. Alright? And so when she gets older, she becomes a dancer at a weird car strip club, auto shop strip club, and now she has the thirst for blood and murder. Just anybody she comes in physical contact with now. While she's doing all this, she has a sexual encounter with an automobile, and it impregnates her. And from there on starts the journey of her as not only a vigilante or just running for her life, she's also had to take care of a car baby in her stomach. Okay? Though that's the premise to that movie. I'm dead serious. Positives. This movie had so many random occurrences, one after the other, after the other, after the other. You start with this girl having the accident when she was little, and the way it happened, and that was something you still had to compute while you were watching this. And they put the metal plate in her head, which is very odd looking the way it was done. And so you're wondering about that. Now she's older, and now she's a murderer. She's a serial killer now. I don't know if this has something to do with the head injury or what. I'm guessing that's what it was. But it seemed like she was a little off before that. The way the accident happened, she didn't seem like a very sound, mentally sound little girl. She didn't seem like that at all. So I don't think the accident was going to be maybe it made it worse. But it's just, it just seemed like a lot of things were being stacked on that before that it was already crazy. You know what I'm saying, with this movie. And just gets crazier as the plot stacks on and on and on. And I was entertained by that, honestly. That was very entertaining. Another positive for this. This movie has somewhat of a raw sexuality to it. Okay? I'm not saying that sex is gonna make the movie what it is, but the way that they handle the sex in this movie it's so different. It's so different. Of course, we're talking about a person who is having relations with a car. And there's a fetish, there's a kink for that. Okay, there's a fetish and a kink for that in real life. So when you think about that and you watch this movie, you see what she does in the beginning. It's just, I don't think people are going to be ready for that. Not mentally. They're not mentally going to be ready. But it is very interesting to watch the whole process go down. Trust me. And then the things that take place after that are just, I really give a lot of props to the actress, Agatha, if I'm saying her name right, because these days a lot of actresses are very timid and won't go a certain area when they act, and they won't do this and they won't do that. She did it all. She did it all. And the sex is also tasteful. It's done tastefully, and it makes sense for the film. That's another thing. It makes a lot of sense for the film. And so I respect that as well. Okay? Another positive about this. Believe it or not, after I've just told you this plot, this movie actually has an emotional turnaround. Like, I think towards like the third act or in the middle, she's a murderer. She's a serial killer. So she's on a run, and she has to change her appearance and so forth. And so she gets involved with this guy who thinks that she's his son, long lost son. There's a lot to that. There's a lot to that I can't explain right now. But just know that he thinks that that's his son. Okay, and for him, it's a very emotional situation that's happening because, his son has come back. His son has come back into his life, and he can't believe it. He's very happy, and, the movie, it really takes an emotional turn for that. Some might be moved or touched. I didn't cry or have a tear. No tears came from the eyes, nothing like that. But I did kind of feel for the guy himself for, only that reason. There's other things that he does in the movie that didn't really understand. But for that reason right there alone, it's gotta hurt. It's gotta be a crazy, crazy situation he's going through. Just getting his son back. And so he thinks. Alright. negatives. One of the biggest negatives about this movie that I have, she is posing as a boy for a majority of this movie. Alright, just to, so she won't get found out or caught. Me as a viewer, I could easily tell, even if I didn't know, if I had no context before she changed her appearance, could easily tell that that is not a boy. That is not a man. Easily. There's something going on with the guy that thinks that's his son. There's something going on with that I can't get into. All right, so I'll kind of exclude him from that. But everybody else in this film seemed to have trouble realizing that that was not a man. And I don't see how they thought this. How did they think this? Even after she disfigured her face to look more like, I guess, what the son would look like if it was older. There is no way. There is no way I'm thinking that that's going to be a man. Okay, and there's also a scene that happens later on that when it happens, you have to know this is a woman. You have to know this is a woman. And all the antics that went around her hiding her identity was just no, how? What are you doing? Why would you miss all these signs that went on, that occurred? It's too obvious. One last negative for this. The relationship between her and her father. This was quite odd because, the father had a big deal of what happened to her early on in the movie with the metal plate and whatnot. After all that happened, and she got older, of course she was still living with her father, and she was doing her murders and whatnot. Her first attempt to run away, or not attempt, but she actually did just run. After that, we never really hear from the father again. So my question for that was, what was their relationship like? Why? There had to be something to it, because the father never really spoke a word. Not really. But there had to be something to their relationship that was twisted or just not sane. Okay, for her to end up the way she is. Even before the accident, the way that the little girl was, is not normal, as I mentioned earlier. And so, what did the father do to her? It had to be something to what he did to her. But they never really mention any of that. They never really dig into that part of her life. Her dad is just like a brief character. He's here, then he's gone. Okay, I would have loved if they would have gotten a little deeper into that, because that would have made a lot more sense. Made you understand a lot more about her as a character and why she is so freaking crazy. Okay, I guarantee you that before the accident, before the metal plate, before the encounter, or with the car, the very interesting encounter, it would have made a lot of sense. But despite all that, I'm still giving this movie a hell yes. Okay, a hell yeah. This movie was like nothing I've ever seen before. And it warned me. The trailer warns you. It's something you've never seen before. And I had to see for myself. And I'm guarantee you right now, if you want to see something very, very, very outrageous and original, despite the breakdown of, you know, the plot, what it's about. This is the movie. This is the movie that's going to shock you, have your mouth wide open, probably by the end of it. I guarantee you that it'll give you that much, at least. I need y'all to like this video, share, and if you haven't subscribed, you better